Hello, and thank you for joining the Don't Quarantine Your Career webinar series. Today is week 6, Don't Put a Hold on Your Professional Momentum. My name is Crystal Brooks, and I'm Director for Academic Partners here at Forte, and I'm delighted today to be joined by 4 of those academic partners from Wharton, Cornell Johnson, Georgetown McDonough, and Rice Jones. Today, to moderate this discussion about MBA planning and how to use this time during quarantine to think about and plan for your MBA is one of my favorite MBAs that's been a part of Forte, Chantel Adams. Chantel is not only an entrepreneur who's a founder and CEO of Full-Time Glow, but also a senior manager in the technology industry with Align. She was an MBA in 2014 from UNC's Keenan Flagler Business School, where she was a Forte Fellow and also was the Edie Hunt Inspiration Award winner that year with Forte. And so I can think of really no better person to moderate this discussion about an MBA and about the value of the MBA than you, Chantel. So I'd love to turn it to you to kick us off.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Crystal. Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are in the world today. My name is Chantel Adams, as Crystal mentioned, and I'm a Forte Fellow from the University of North Carolina, Keenan Flagler Business School, class of 2014. I am so excited to moderate this discussion on the value of the MBA because I personally, over the 6 years that I've been out of school, have made 4 different cross-country moves, all for work, right? And I've never heard of anyone making such significant geographical moves outside of the military and serving in that capacity. However, when I left business school in 2014 and started my career my transition from the financial services world into consumer marketing, I moved from North Carolina to California. A couple years after that, moved from California to Chicago, then Chicago to Massachusetts, and now I'm back out on the West Coast in California again. So really excited to talk to you all today about what that value looks like and allow you to hear from some wonderful panelists throughout the many schools represented on today's panel. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is, what do you actually do with an MBA? So for me, I had an undergraduate degree that was in finance, so definitely had that business background. But the MBA truly enabled me to position myself to kind of do anything functionally in business. And what I currently do, in addition to running my own small business on the side, is I'm a senior manager of consumer marketing within Align Technology, the creator of Invisalign clear aligners. And I primarily do digital and social marketing, and then I also lead consumer PR for the company. So really excited about what's next on the journey. As many of you know, digital and social media is changing every day as we're all at home looking and staring at our devices, but there are MBAs on the back end, making sure you see the right ads at the right time. So with that, I would love to allow our panelists to introduce themselves. Why don't we get started with you, Sarah?
Sure, thanks, Chantel. I'm Sarah Lynn Eoni. I'm Senior Director of Admissions for the New York City-based Executive MBA programs at Cornell. I work specifically with our Executive MBA Metro New York program. It's a Saturday, Sunday, every other weekend format, as well as our Executive MBA MS in Healthcare Leadership program, which is a dual degree program.
Awesome. Barbara, how about you?
Yes. Welcome, everyone. I'm Barb Kraft. I'm Director of Admissions for Wharton San Francisco's MBA program for executives. We are one program with 2 different locations. We also have the same program in Philadelphia, where my counterpart, Diane Sharp, is Director of Admissions. So I've been offering our executive program in Philadelphia for 46 years now, and in San Francisco, we're coming up on our 20th year. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Shelly, why don't you?
Yeah, hello, good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're coming in from. My name is Shelly Heinrich. I'm the Associate Dean of MBA Admissions at Georgetown University's McDonough School of Business, representing our full-time program, our flex program for working professionals, but we also have a series of Masters in Management, other specialized masters, and even an executive program as well. So thanks all for logging in. Look forward to chatting with you today.
Awesome. And finally, you, Janice.
Hi, everyone. I'm Janice Kennedy. I'm the Executive Director of Recruiting and Admissions and Financial Services for Rice Business for all of our MBA programs, our Executive MBA program, and our hybrid online program.
Awesome. Well, let's get into our first question, which is for Sarah and Shelly. The MBA program, MBA or executive MBA programs are all quite significant investments. What would either of you say is the value of that MBA, and what can the participants today think about the return on investment for either the MBA or the executive MBA?
Yeah, I'm happy to go. So I think, the MBA is one of those value degrees that has long-standing brand appeal, right? People know what they're getting when they have an MBA, much like a JD or an MD. And so when employers hire an MBA, they know they have versatile skill sets in a wide breadth of topics with business. So they know they'll be able to accomplish the goals in their company, but also pivot should they ever need to have multiple functions. And right now, especially in this economy, it's really important to be able to have functional skill sets and cross disciplines, because we are going to be wearing multiple hats. The great thing about an MBA as well, I think most of us on the call can attest that people come in to do career switches with MBAs and fairly drastic ones at that. And so if you're finding yourself at a place in your career where you want to just kind of step back and think, is this the right path that I'm on? Or maybe I want to try something different. An MBA can be a great home for you. It also has long-term value in that, 5, 6, 7 years post-MBA, perhaps you want to make another switch. And again, the MBA allows you to communicate to employers that you have those skills to make the switch. And then my last point on the value is you can't underestimate the career services that you're going to receive in a top tier MBA program. You come in and we guide and advise you and provide you access to an employers in a way that you won't get on the outside, just if doing a lateral career move. So you do get a strong ROI from that career aspect as well.
Awesome. Sarah, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Shelly. And I think specifically for the executive MBA experience, something that's really unique to that experience is the immediate impact that our students see. You're working full time, but you're also balancing the education. So you're getting these real-time conversations and these opportunities to really apply what you're learning. And with that comes the space to take risks. And that's oftentimes not a luxury that our students have at work. And that also is part of the value of having a diverse cohort of students. You're getting your ideas challenged by different individuals from all different industries and all different functional areas. So there's this depth of conversation that happens in the executive MBA classroom that is really unique. And then in terms of the return on investment piece, I think that is a little bit different than value. It's more personalized. So I would recommend for anyone who's thinking about pursuing an MBA or an executive MBA, make sure you're defining what you want that return to be as you're assessing different programs, so you can really figure out if the experience will be beneficial for you.
Both wonderful points. Thank you so much for that. Let's get into our next question, which is a question of the times that we're currently in, and address the elephant in the room, which unfortunately is COVID-19. There are a few different perspectives out there in the market right now in terms of how COVID-19 will impact the MBA and MBA, both the experiences, but then also the admissions process. So can you talk about, Janice or Barb, can you talk about in particular, how does this change the application environment and what those requirements are for your programs?
Sure, I'd be happy to take that. I think this is a time of great opportunity, and I think that more than ever, as far as, MBAs are trained to deal with uncertainty and to adjust, and our students are, and to be leaders and to be hopeful and to inspire people to to be hopeful. And I think that because of that, they're very well prepared coming out of these programs to deal with times like this. I think it is also a great time. I mean, when you look at our world being turned upside down, I think a lot of people are starting to think about, wow, yeah, there are a lot of things that I can't control, but then there are things that I can control. And that's me, and that's my education, and to be prepared best I can for circumstances like this. And that with that, comes adaptability and understanding across disciplines and so forth. So what we're seeing is we're actually seeing really strong interest in the MBA at this point. I think that it is forcing us to recreate the way we're handling admissions, and that we're promoting our program and in some ways delivering our program. So that opportunity has been really great. As far as, things like information sessions that we're now taking online, or virtual office hours, or things like that, we're no longer limited by space constraints. We also can reach anyone, anytime, anywhere, and they can reach us. So I think there's a ton of opportunity in what we're seeing today.
Great. Janice, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, thank you, Barbara. That was fantastic. The only thing I think about is when you realize the challenge among leaders in industry right now, it's how do we make things work when panic and uncertainty happens? So what a better time to actually go to school in that space and have those discussions along with the strategy and all the things that you're learning as an MBA, because you'll find, and anyone can look around wherever they're working, and it's those fantastic people who aren't focused on what is present and what is real that can be creative enough to work around anything. So I find that the students that are so worried about how many weeks will be virtual, how many weeks will be this, I'm like, okay, you really need the MBA to learn that this is not, the world is not that simple. And frankly, I think this real-time way of experiencing it is fantastic. The really big piece for admissions is those for whom the obstacle of a test, the GMAT or the GRE, has been their absolute no-go. Now's your chance. There's many schools who are offering some type of exemption or waiver or what have you. Show your value outside of that test. This could be the perfect year.
Yeah, and if I may just follow up with that, all those standardized tests have gone online. So again, you don't have these physical constraints. If you were thinking about taking something like the GMAT, it is now a shorter test being online. They've dropped the analytical writing component. So for anyone who was nervous about that piece, now is your time to take that test.
Awesome. Thank you both. And if I just may add, in terms of what you get and how you're prepared to deal with times like this and be agile as an MBA, there are 2 courses that prepared me for just this moment, and they were electives when I was in business school. One of them was managing effective virtual teams, where we had to work on a group project and we were not allowed to speak in person throughout the entire quarter. And the project was designing a product, which is very difficult to do virtually. The other was crisis and reputation management. We're in quite a bit of a crisis here. And so I've been able to leverage what I learned in both of those classes to be even more effective from home in my day job. So thank you both for alluding to some of those things that prepare you to be agile coming out of the MBA. So let's move to our next question. We touched on the value of the MBA a little bit previously, but Shelly and Sarah, is there anything that you would add in terms of the long-term value, right? So when we think about the 7+ years post-MBA, what does that long-term value look like and that network look like for either the MBA or the Executive MBA program?
Right. So, you are in any of our schools, you're entering not just a 2-year community with your cohort and your class, but you're entering a community of all of the alumni that have come before you and that will come after you, and that will help you in your career, whether it's through advisement or frankly, job opportunities, vendors, suppliers. And so you're becoming a part of a family and a brand. The other thing I say is you're going to be learning on the front lines of how to deal in a virtual technology environment, right? Even once this is passed, the world will look different, right? Because now companies will have learned how to use technology and virtual spaces in a way they never have before. And so you as an MBA student going in the next couple of years, you're going to get to be on the front lines of learning it. And, you know, business is constantly changing. Like I can tell you, even when I did my MBA, we were talking about topics that, you know, were, you know, 3 or 4 years ago that have come and gone. And so you'll get to experience that and then teach your peers going out of it in whatever company that you're in. The other thing to note is, you know, lots of companies this fall are going to be virtual as well. And so you're going to be at the same playing field in recruiting as you would have been, right? And so the long-term value will stand, and people will recognize that you did an MBA in a challenging environment, and they'll be, I think, more, you know, you'll have more leverage and more marketability because of that.
Yeah, that's great. I think I would add a little bit on the alumni network. You've mentioned great aspects of that. As you said, you're becoming part of a community for life. And to Chantel's points earlier, take a look at the global reach of the alumni network, but also the regional reach of that. Look at where the companies you want to be a part of, where do they have locations? Does the school you're considering have alumni networks there and a presence? And with that alumni network, you know, are there mentorship opportunities? Are there social events and professional programming to support you lifelong? And what's that access look like for you? It's such an important part. The network piece and the people aspect is something that will be with you lifelong. And think about setting yourself up for success longer term. There's going to be a job market. We don't know what it'll look like in 22 months, but if it's a struggling one, you want to be competitive and you want to have people to lean on and resources that are alumni and faculty and previous cohort class members.
Thank you for that, Sarah and Shelly. And our final question is more a question about how to determine fit, right, in this environment when unfortunately folks can't necessarily get to your beautiful campuses and get a feel in person for what other students are like or get that in-person experience with a professor. What are some of the ways that they can learn more about your programs virtually? And I'll look for Barb and Janice to jump in on this one.
And one thing that we actually have a virtual tour online that we've been developing. So I encourage people to jump in and check out that tool. The other thing is, I think when it comes to fit, there are a lot of programs out there, and the great opportunity here is that now you can visit them all out of the comfort of your home. And I would say what you want to do in that case is to do exactly that, you know, visit the campus tours online, talk to people, talk to alumni, talk to the admissions teams, attend whatever events that you possibly can. We're having some faculty presentations, I'm sure other schools are as well, so that you can even get a sense of a virtual class. And it makes for a really wonderful tapestry of comparing programs as you get out there, and hopefully really soon we'll be able to be back in person and people will be able to come and visit in person. But you can do a lot of this groundwork right from home, which is nice.
Yeah, I agree with you again. The aspiration of so many schools and your desire to get a great MBA is vast. There is opportunity with many strong schools to get that. So I encourage people to think about, what do I want the experience to be like? You know, there's the table stakes of I will learn X, Y, and Z. To what degree can I personalize part of my learning? What type of learning? What class size? Those things are the questions that are a little bit less tangible, even when you visit campus. But I think it's good to talk to current students. Many of our websites have a list of students ready to talk to you. You can filter them by where they live and what their industry is, and the access is there. So I would encourage anyone to just go get it and find out. And this is your time. And I know that many, if not all schools, are really open to helping people decide the right place for them.
Thank you both for that. And what I would add as someone who went through this a few years back is, to Barb's point, this is so great because you can visit so many schools from home. I remember having to make that tough decision of, out of all of the schools I wanted to apply to, which ones can I afford to visit in person, right? Because there is a financial cost with the travel that's associated with that. And now you can thankfully do all of that from home. So definitely take advantage of those virtual opportunities, and where you see appropriate, definitely connect with current students or faculty members or staff at those programs. Well, that is the end of our prepared questions. We have some really great questions in the Q&A box, so I will turn over to some of those. The first question is a career question from Jessica, and Jessica is asking, how will that career guide change for MBAs in COVID-19, with this being the new normal on campus, without the networking that there used to be in person? What will that career exploratory look like? So maybe Janice, do you want to jump in on this one?
Sure. I'd say that our partner corporations, as with I'm sure all of these schools, are also adjusting because they still need the talent and they still have the plans to develop and grow their company. So they're open to virtual chats. They're open to new ways of coffee chats or any way to have these virtual type of openings. I don't think the appetite changes for what you can and will do. Of course, there will be some industries that are a little bit more hit by this time short term. And then there'll be some that are, as Shelly was saying earlier, that are hiring even more people. So the appetite is there, the access is there. It will look different, but as with many people who try to interview for jobs, it's the go-getters who can get out there and meet them and find them and make that networking happen.
Awesome.
And if I may follow up, I was just going to say that I think many of our programs too, our career resources, are preparing people to interview and network in a different way. I know our Director of Career Advancement has been doing an awful lot with online webinars and coaching online on how to interview via Zoom and how to network via Zoom and how to put yourself out there. So I think our programs too are preparing our students well for these times and the change of how not only they're managing, but how they'll manage their careers.
Awesome. Shelly, were you going to add something?
Yeah, I was just thinking in the moment of how, interestingly on Zoom, we all see each other's names, right? And sometimes in networking sessions, when you go up to people in happy hours and employers, you shake their hand, you introduce your name, and the employer is going to forget it because they're meeting so many people. But in this kind of Zoom environment, you have the opportunity to, like, they're staring at your name for an hour or however long you're on the session. And if you make a great impression, there's actually real value in that. And, yes, you won't get to physically shake their hand, but you can do a virtual handshake through your smile and through your questions. And so it is a new skill that you'll have to learn. But the reality is there were a lot of tech companies and other companies that were doing virtual recruiting anyways prior to this even happening, because it's more efficient for them. And so, and a lot of career centers, a lot of our offices were already prepared for those virtual recruitments anyway. So it's not necessarily that this is new for any of us. There's going to be more of it, but it's something that we've all adapted to, and there's benefits that can come from it.
Absolutely. I love that ad. Our next question is similarly around job opportunities post MBA and what those look like. So next question, also from Jessica, is what is the best way to decide what to specialize in if you want to stay particularly in a certain area? She's specifically asking about Los Angeles. And so her question is around, is it okay to go to maybe an East Coast school if you know that post MBA you want to land back on the West Coast? Or would she or someone like her who has a specific geography in mind be better off getting their MBA locally? Barb, do you want to start off on that one?
Sure. And I think that's where the power of a network comes into play. We have alumni all over the world, and it's working through those alumni and having those contacts lifelong contacts. I think that if you're looking to specialize or major, you can certainly do that in many of our programs. But at the same time, I always encourage students, try a bit of everything, because you don't know yet what you don't know. And to also get to know your classmates really well, right? Because, within your class, somebody may have your dream job. But I think through any MBA program that you have the support to land pretty much wherever you would like, as long as you're really utilizing those resources and tapping into the amazing network that you gain through a program.
If I can add something, I think, Barb, that was such a great point about identifying what you don't know. And that's something I see our Executive MBA students being really successful at. We're not training them to go out and be the individuals who are doing the financial modeling, but we need them to understand it so they can ask the right questions. And that's something that's often elusive, but something that we hear from employers. They really want executives who have that skill set where they can identify strengths in others, but also they know when they don't know something and they can pull in the right people to help them out. And that's where that collaboration piece is key.
I was just going to add that when I talk to incoming students or candidates, one of the things I say is break it down as you consider where you want to go. Think function, industry, and geography. So if someone comes in and says, I just want to be in technology. Well, okay, technology is ubiquitous. So do you want to be in technology in a consumer environment? So if you really think, where do I see myself functionally, obviously trying to grow into the commercial leadership roles, and then what is the industry that tends to capture my attention or passion or learning or whatever that is, but then what's the geography? So I think when you break that down, you're a little bit more honed in on what you want to go take, what you want to go learn, who you want to be exposed to, and how you're going to network.
Couldn't agree more, Janice. That's actually the same model that I've used for my own career. And I have to say, most people think of UNC as a very regional Southern school, but every move that I've made, there's been at least one other MBA from UNC Kenan-Flagler. So you can definitely take your MBA or your EMBA wherever your career takes you, and you'll be just fine. The next question is more about the MBA experience. So Janice, I'll throw this back to you. But the question is, if we are admitted, how will we network with our cohort? Can you speak a little bit about how that's been continuing to happen maybe for first years at Rice?
Sure. So we, even with our admitted students that haven't enrolled or matriculated yet, we have events for them, just them. To network, they don't need to listen to us. They don't need that. We'll have events with professors and all the other events, but we will virtually support and enable that relationship building that is so critical. Obviously all of us are looking at our buildings and how we're going to use them and how that will work. But we also realize that some people may not be comfortable coming to the building. So offering the accommodations of creating these relationships as a cohort virtually is critical to jump off. We're finding that, they're having happy hours and all these other things that we're not even setting up. So I think the kickoff has happened, and it's nice to see that the venue is in play and people are trying to find ways to get to know each other.
Awesome. Shelly, anything that you want to add there?
Yeah, I think I was listening to a panel last night that we hosted in our info session, and the students, our current students, rising second years, were talking about how they transformed our weekly. So we have a weekly event. It's a weekly happy hour every Thursday that signals the end of the school week, because we don't have classes on Friday. And so that happens on our campus, that transitioned virtually. And one of the students said, typically there's 100 people that would attend on campus. And she said, after the first couple of events in the fall, I started only gravitating to my small group of 3 to 4 friends every Thursday. She said, what's now happened virtually is that the school is facilitating breaking us out into breakout sessions. And she said, I'm meeting people, getting outside of my comfort zone and meeting other people that my introverted personality naturally wouldn't have had me do. And so she said, I've met so many new people in the last couple of months. So I think, again, there's benefits that can come from this virtual environment. And the other student on the call said he was doing a virtual poker night last night night with his friends, obviously not school sponsored, but he was doing a virtual poker night with his friends. They've done trivia nights, so there's just different ways to be creative to stay connected to the community.
Awesome. Thank you both for adding that. Let's move on to our next question. The question is more so around Forte. So I don't know if any of our panelists can answer, or if Crystal, you may be able to jump in or follow up with this person afterwards. But the question is, in the current situation, is Forte offering something different or more to its fellows?
Hi, Chantel. I'm happy to hop in. I'm Crystal again with Forte. And Forte's been working really hard to, just like all of our schools, provide opportunities for networking, education, content during this time so that you all can continue to think about your careers. And so this webinar is one of a series of quarantine webinars that we've been producing over the last 6 weeks. But in addition to these virtual sessions, we've also been taking the events that we traditionally host in person online. And so right now, we're hosting our Financial Services Fast Track, which is usually in New York City. And yesterday and today, we're hosting all of that online. So we're doing panels just like we would be in person through Zoom. We're doing a career expo that would have typically been in person, where we bring together our corporate partners, and we're doing that online. So I think just like our schools, Forte is working to do things and be nimble. We're moving our MBA Women's Leadership Conference next month to a virtual experience. And I think that you'll find that your schools and MBA and Executive MBA programs, like Forte, are all committed to making sure that these experiences are if not the same experience, the same type of value, and the same just connections that you would have, just in a different way. And so that's what we're doing at Forte, and I know our schools are being really creative about those things as well.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Crystal. All right, next question. This question is about financial assistance through the MBA. So can we get maybe one EMBA and one full-time MBA response? Maybe Barb and Shelly, if you could tackle this one. But what's the likelihood in this environment of someone being able to get a scholarship or fellowship to your programs, or just to an MBA program in general? What is the current environment look like for that?
Yeah, so for us at the Wharton School, and I can't really speak to our full-time MBA program, but with our executive program, all of our students are fully employed as they go through the program. That is a requirement, and is an admissions requirement that people remain fully employed while juggling what is equivalent to the full-time MBA. Many of them do receive some type of financial support from their employer. I always encourage people to be making the pitch to their employer long before they apply, and getting their buy-in, and really not just asking for financial sponsorship, but really selling the value of the degree to their employer and what's in it for their employer as they consider taking on an MBA program, because they're going to make great contributions from day one as they get involved with the program. And they're going to have an incredible group of classmates that they can tap into and learn from as well. We do have some fellowship or scholarship at the Wharton School. We consider absolutely every one of our applicants as they go through the process. There's not a separate program for that. We consider everyone as part of the application process for scholarship or fellowship. But again, I can't emphasize enough, really taking time to prepare what is essentially a business case to take to your employer if you're doing an executive program, and really being thoughtful about the pitch that you're going to make, and even backing that up and planting some early seeds. A lot of us have resources out there on our website on how to do that and tips. We actually have a video from one of our negotiations professors. It's a big ask, no matter what, but again, it's not just asking for yourself, but what the employer will gain out of that.
Wonderful. And every school manages their scholarship budget differently. So, you know, some schools, you know, Georgetown, we set aside certain pools of funding for each round. You know, other schools may, again, manage it differently. So yes, I mean, the reality is if you apply in round one, you know, we're starting from scratch with the scholarship budget. I mean, it just makes sense, right? That there may be more opportunities at the beginning. However, you know, we're about to go out with round 4 decisions next week, and we're still going to be awarding scholarships. I mean, they are more competitive, but we're also only admitting a few number of people because at this point, you know, we've really kind of filled over enrolled our class a little bit at this point. And so, but then, you know, over the summer, there's always movement, right? And so if you're a good candidate, don't try to, you know, hypothesize like the likelihood of getting a scholarship now versus later. If now is the right time for you to apply, go ahead and submit your application and see what happens. And if for whatever reason you're not, you know, awarded a scholarship or that's a concern to you, you can always reapply next year. And I think hopefully I can speak for all the schools to say we don't look negatively upon reapplicants. In fact, we welcome them, right? Especially if, you know, we've gotten to have a conversation with you before you reapply to say, how can you improve your application? How can you be more competitive? Maybe what were the gaps in your application that we didn't see? It shows that you're engaged with our school. It shows that you want to come to our school. And so it doesn't hurt you to apply now. And then, you know, for whatever reason, if you need to apply next year, you can do that. It's perfectly fine.
That's great advice. Similarly, there's a question from someone who's considering an MBA or a specialized Master's of Science in Leadership and Management. And the question is, should they go for the MBA since they know exactly what they want to focus on, or should they be looking at that MS program? Shelly or Janice, do you want to jump in on this one? And then maybe Sarah, if you have anything to build on.
Yeah, I mean, they're both the right decisions, whichever one you decide. An MBA like allows you to still be very specialized. So a leadership and management degree is essentially kind of what you're getting in an MBA as well. And all of our programs have elective opportunities where if you know you want to specifically myopically focus on an area, you could do all your electives in that area. And essentially you could kind of specialize whether or not we have it on our degrees. So, you know, with specialized master's degree is if you know that's what you want to do for the next part of your career, then do that. If you want the versatility to switch and pivot and show yourself employers that you have a breadth of skills, then maybe that's a better opportunity for you. Also, I would say what else comes with that specialized master's degree? Some schools don't provide the career services for specialized masters, some do. Some don't provide access to student clubs or case competitions, some do. So like dig into kind of those added value components that MBAs come with to see if they do come with your specialized master or not, and then determine if it's important to you or if you care whether they do or not.
And the only thing I would add to that is where are you right now? So we're finding that many undergrads are saying, okay, the job market doesn't look good for me right now. I might as well go straight into my MBA. And I can't speak for all the schools, but I think most of us agree there's greater value when you have some work experience, because then you can tangibly understand what that learning is about based on what you've experienced, seen, or had participated in. So if you're a recent undergrad and that's just the path you want, I think some of those specialized masters are a fantastic road for you at this time. So it's kind of, I completely agree. Find out what comes with it, what's your path, and where are you in the development of all of this.
I think with any program you're looking at, dive into the curriculum. I think all of our programs have lists of courses that are offered. Take a look at what those are. Are those getting at skill sets that you want exposure to and that you feel like you need to get to the next level in your career, whatever that might be? And to Shelly's point around the transferable aspect of that, make sure you're getting that piece as well, either through the courses you're taking or the resources available.
And interestingly, we actually see at the executive level, a lot of our students have master's degrees in a specialized area and are later coming back for that MBA for the broader breadth of knowledge and the more leadership probably component of things, and to work across industry. They tend to become very profound and experts in their particular field, and now they're looking to take that to the next level.
Great, thanks for that ad, Barbara. This next question is a bit of a unique one. So we have someone who currently is considering getting an MBA, but wants to know the value of an MBA for someone who particularly wants to go into human resources at the board level of a global head of HR type of position. Can either of you speak to MBA opportunities, particularly within the HR function at either the Executive MBA or traditional MBA program?
I can't speak specifically to that industry, but I think it goes back to that idea of the transferable skill set. So our executive MBA students are learning things like we said, advanced leadership skill sets, crisis management, strategy. They're developing that executive presence that is applicable to all different industries and functional areas. And along with that, learning to lead high performing teams and navigate those team dynamics, which I think is essential in any executive role.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Organizational leadership of any kind, you know, human capital, when you can speak the language of the business at all levels, in a commercial, across commercial, you can speak to accounting, you can speak to legal, you can speak to operations, you serve as a much stronger advocate for the organization and for that human capital. So to the degree that you get the exposure across the commercial organization, that's going to be the value to me that I think will help you with the human capital HR aspects at a high level.
Thank you both for that. And we actually had human capital consulting opportunities on campus when I was in business school. And my one classmate who went into that is now head of HR at a company. So there's definitely MBA level opportunities within that function for sure. We do have a question here about exchange programs and different global opportunities. So Shelly and Janice, this is probably one for you guys, but what would you say is or likely to be a makeup for this, knowing that travel opportunities are likely going to be limited from here on out?
Yeah, I think it depends on the timing of those global opportunities within your program. You know, for us, our global consulting experience happens to be in the second year and spring break of the second year. So we're talking like 2 years from now. So goodness, hopefully everyone's you know, traveling globally in 2 years from now. The other opportunities, international treks, are throughout the semester and in different locations. And so yes, they may be paused for this coming fall, perhaps, but I think it's all a wait and see approach. But I can't envision a world where we stop traveling globally whatsoever. At least maybe that's my optimism. But I think 2 years from now looks very, very different. And then exchange programs, you know, most people in an MBA would do those in their second year anyways. I think, at least in the situations I'm aware of, because you really are on campus for your cohort your first year. So if you're going to be gone for a semester, you typically do that your second year. So again, we're talking like 1.5 years to 2 years from now. So it's hard to speculate, but.
Yeah, we have the same vision of the future, back to travel and back to everything that we can experience in person. So we certainly are leaning toward that. We go to emerging markets and we go back to the same markets many times because of our partnerships with the people in that market, business and otherwise. So I'd say to the degree that anything is held, we still have those relationships and we can do much of that work virtually as well. We offer an opt-out opportunity because some people just won't be comfortable with that travel. Maybe they were before, but some will and some won't. So we're trying to find that alternative experience that you can do without traveling. So I think we're trying to accommodate in all ways because it's a new world, right?
Definitely. Sarah, maybe this is a question you can jump in on, Sarah, and possibly Shelly as well, so we get both perspectives. But we do have a question around, is there anything that you would suggest or recommend for someone who was considering business school, but unfortunately has lost their job due to COVID-19?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's a tough situation. I would say talk to the different schools that you're considering and find out what the different financial options are. There are scholarships at different programs. There, as you heard earlier, there are different resources for financing the MBA. It is an investment, but there are options for you. So I don't think that should be, an be all end all. And I think we're seeing a little bit more flexibility for our executive MBA programs where we've had requirements for students to be employed. That's still really a crucial piece, but we are seeing some flexibility in that with different programs.
Yeah, definitely. And, many students at this time of the year pursuing a full-time program will have ended their job voluntarily to kind of prepare and get ready over the summer. So I am sorry and very sorry to all those on the call that have been affected by COVID, especially with their jobs or their health. I hope everyone is doing well. But talk with your school. I mean, considering a full-time program to kind of reset. And then realizing that there are opportunities within our programs to do graduate assistantships, teaching assistantships, research to gain a little bit of income. Also understanding that, internships in a full-time program are paid. Typically, the stipend's typically $6,000 to $7,000 a month to $8,000 depending on the industry. And then also realize, you're calculating your return on investment, not only the salary coming out of your MBA, but the large signing bonuses. I know a lot of our students will leverage those very large signing bonuses to put towards initial loans that they maybe took out. And so there's lots of ways to kind of piece things together, as you consider how to finance.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think those are all great points, and remembering that this is an investment in yourself for a lifetime. And maybe this is great opportunity. I guess I'm looking at the silver lining, and maybe this is the right time for a full-time MBA program that you didn't need to leave your job because that happened for you. And maybe this is the time to jump all in and, to Shelly's point, reset. And, by the time you're ready to come out, things will look very, very different.
All very great points. I'll come back to you, Sarah, with this question. In the virtual conversations that you've been having with prospective students, what's something that you wish students would do or ask differently in order to best assess the fit with your program or just programs in general as they're assessing out the landscape?
That's a great question. I think something that a lot of our applicants aren't aware that we still offer is the opportunity to engage with our students and with our alumni. So we are more than happy to set up phone calls. We're doing virtual coffee chats with students and alumni to give you that one-on-one connection. And so, if there's something you feel like you aren't getting in the experience virtually, ask us, because I guarantee we found a way to provide that connection for you and that experience, albeit maybe in a different business model, but it's something where we can still facilitate those conversations. That's the biggest thing I hear students saying, oh, I'm not getting in class to meet one-on-one with a student, and we can still make that happen.
Fantastic. Anything anyone else wants to add on that one?
I'll jump in. Yeah, thanks. I think that taking advantage of that opportunity to speak one-on-one with someone from the admissions team and to openly share, your case, what your thoughts are, your credentials, gives us the chance to provide and guide you and provide some, advice and help you with that planning process, whether you're looking to apply this year or the following year. I think to just have that one-on-one time with an admissions advisor can be incredibly beneficial. And also things like this that Forte is offering, you know, jump in on every one of those that you can.
Great. Shelly, I'm going to come back to you. This is a question about international applicants. So in the current environment, are there any steps being taken to encourage international applicants, and what can they do in order to make it make sense for them in this environment, knowing that they may not be able to get to campus anytime soon? What and how is Georgetown thinking about the international applicants for this upcoming application cycle?
Great, and hopefully I can answer just in general. So schools are taking very different steps, you know, so I think schools are waiting and seeing. I think you'll see over the next month, many schools will start to announce their fall plans. Their fall plans could be anything from being all on campus to being all virtual to having a hybrid, and also contingency plannings for if you start on campus, do we have to go virtual? Some schools are looking at pushing their start dates back to January. So there's a lot of different options, and so just be in communication with your school on their various options. And then, you know, I think no matter what a school announces now, I mean, things may change. I think you have to be comfortable being flexible going into the fall environment, and also knowing that there's potential upsides to it as well. You know, in terms of your careers afterwards, you know, schools that have STEM designations obviously allow you to do 3 years of OPT afterwards. You know, schools are looking at providing or making internships a required part of the curriculum so that you can do an internship in the US between year 1 and year 2 if you're virtual in the fall. So all these questions that schools are now becoming experts on, and learning how to kind of navigate. So I guess the key question is just be in contact with your admissions advisors. I talk with students all of the time, and know that I would imagine over the next 30 to 45 days, we'll know a lot more from different schools on what the fall will look like.
Great, thanks for that. And then this is a question more so for Barb from an EMBA perspective. Maybe you can chime in on this. So someone's asking, they have 9 years of experience and want to definitely stay in their current industry. Would you advise that they go for an executive MBA or full-time MBA?
I would, you know, biasly, I would advise that they, knowing that they want to stay in their current industry, to step off and kind of lose that career progression during those 2 years to try to go back to the same industry. One, they can actually continue to draw their salary and also work in their career and be exposed to people from multiple industries and who are in a similar situation of juggling. Also, given that they're a little further along in their career with 9 years, I definitely recommend the executive program. Maybe there's opportunity that their company will pay for it, which makes it even better. And they're able to continue to make impact on their career and their organization while they're getting their degree. So biasly, I would say I would seriously look at those executive programs, knowing that they want to stay in that same industry. That said, I run into many students who tell me that coming in, and as they're going out, they're in a totally different field. So again, it's one of those, any MBA program opens new doors. It makes you look at things differently. And, you know, my best advice is to go into any program with a very open mind.
Awesome. Next question is from someone who is currently getting a Master's of Science in Engineering Project Management and has 3 years of work experience. And they would like to know how long should they wait before applying for their MBA. Janice, do you want to take this one?
So we don't have a set date, but we do believe that it makes sense to have experience. I would say because of the range of types of programs we have, our full-time average work experience is about 5 years. But then back to the 9-year executive, we have that working professional between group, and then the executive group has an average of 16 years. So it's really, what's the timing for you? How do you fit into that cohort? And then how will that benefit your plan? So I think you really need to look at what's the experience going to be, what's the curriculum, what's the cohort, and how will that fit to my strategic goals and my aspirations.
Absolutely. And I can definitely chime in here. I started my MBA program literally at the 3-year mark out of business school. So it's different for everyone. I was the 3rd youngest in my class, but it's different for everyone. And you sort of know when you're ready to be in a group like that. So it's definitely a decision you can make for yourself. The next question is a bit of a work-life question. So Shelly, I'll give this one to you. This is a question from someone who's currently in an engineering role, happily working about 40 hours a week. And they're concerned that if they get an MBA, they'll be funneled into a 60+ hour work week type of job. Are there MBA level opportunities that do have work-life balance with that 40 to 50 hour happy medium?
Yeah, so I think this is where all of our career centers come in helpful, as well as our alumni. There are definitely careers where the career center will tell you, look, this is an 80-hour-a-week career. I think I actually have a friend who went to work at a company in finance in New York, and in his offer letter, it said, like, this is an 80-hour-a-work-week job. And so you're like signing the offer letter, but at least you know up front what you're signing. So yes, I mean, there are all different types of jobs out there in all different industries and backgrounds. And so, and there's plenty of 50 and 60-hour-a-week jobs that you can get without an MBA as well, and so I think you come in, you leverage our career center, you tell them what's important to you, and you have them guide you into the industries that are going to fit into that better work-life balance. And then you confirm what they're telling you with talking with alumni from those companies and in those industries, and you learn what's gonna work for you. And so the answer is yes, but the answer is there's also a lot of jobs without an MBA that will require that amount of work as well. I think the good news is the more when you get an MBA, you're leveraging that there are more options for you. More doors will now open for you to have the options of which companies you want to choose from. Without a master's degree, you might have more limited opportunities. And so this just gives you more, and then you can pick what you want.
I think there's also that added self-awareness, because when you're an A-type personality and you've driven hard to get your MBA, sometimes you may step into a 40 to 50 hour work week, but you make it more because you're just driven that way. So I always encourage anyone as they're working to consider their season of life, what their balance is, in addition to what the company is requiring.
I also hear from our students frequently that they become experts in time management skill sets, and something that maybe was a 60-hour work week can now be a 40-hour work week because they're balancing working full-time with their full-time jobs, working full-time with school as well now. So they have to find those pockets of time and work more efficiently. So I think that's a benefit from MBA and executive MBA programs.
Great. And speaking of balance, the final question that we'll take here, because we're almost at time, is a great one. So for working mothers with young children, do you think an MBA is something that they would be able to handle? So Janice or Shelly, because I'm assuming this is a full-time question.
Yes. So depending on who you are and how you are approaching your life and your time with your youngster, I think that's a question for you. I absolutely encourage you to reach out to other mothers that are doing it now so they can speak to the truth of the pain and the benefits, because anything we do and invest in while we're trying to be mom, career, and all the things that we want to be will take some juggling, if you will. And if you have 3 balls, home, child, and work, and school, or whatever, 4 balls, how are you going to keep them all in the air, and which one can drop safely? Is like a big question you need to be able to understand, because there will be trade-offs.
I love this question. This hits home for me. So I ended up doing my executive MBA when I had a 4-year-old at the time. And honestly, the only reason I almost didn't do it was because of this question. Could I do it? Would it jeopardize my child? Could I balance it all? And, you know, I did definitely have to have the support of my partner, but it could be also a family member. And so that was a huge factor for me, a very emotional one. And so I, you know, fast forward into my MBA, you know, I made it a point to say, look, it's okay if I don't get all A's in my classes, because I'm fine with B pluses or A minuses if it means I can spend family time. And so I made that mature adult decision to say, you know, Saturdays are going to be family time, or I'm going to do this with my children. And I may not study quite as much as I would had I been 22 or 23. You know, I think the confirmation for me that it was okay was when my son got into kindergarten. You know, I think his first kind of grade report showed that he was above reading level, above grade level. And for me, I think was in tears that, look, okay, this is possible. Like he's going to be fine. And frankly, he's 7 now. And I also have a 1-year-old, but he's 7 now. If I were to ask him, do you even remember mommy doing an executive MBA? He doesn't remember. He has no clue. But what he did do is see me reading a lot, and see me working, and see me talking about school, and see me talking about how education is important. And even to this day, I talk about education. And so I think that will stick with him. And him also knowing that I balanced, but we got through it. You can get through it, and you'll realize how you can balance your time and really focus on what's important to you.
Yeah, we had 4 of our women in our second year this year have babies during the course of the program. And mind you, this is while they were juggling full-time jobs and what's equivalent to our full-time MBA program. And you know, their classmates and their teammates rallied around them to help keep them up. It really tends to be, you know, these groups become very close and they all want to see one another succeed. They also had, you know, strong support from home, whether that was a partner, as Shelly mentioned, a family member or whatnot. You know, I always think the only easy day was yesterday. Time does not stop. And you know, so if this is something that's on your radar, I encourage you to do it. Do it sooner versus later, because the sooner you do it, the more benefit that you will reap from this degree and the network that you make.
Awesome. Thank you to all of the panelists for participating today. Crystal, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think it just was a fabulous way to end, and what a great question to end here today, because of course we all have many things, whether it's a child or a family or caretaking or some kind of home commitment or work or 80 hours of work, whatever it can be. There are many reasons that we can think, well, maybe now isn't the right time. But to Barbara's point, if this is on your radar, perhaps now is the right time for you to consider the MBA or executive MBA. And I just so appreciate our schools today, Cornell, Rice, Wharton, Georgetown, and of course Chantel doing a fabulous job facilitating this conversation to share that message with you, that we certainly here at Forte encourage that MBA and are just glad to be a part of this conversation. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
This is fun. Bye.